What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnic Lab 126. This is the podcast that focuses on strategies inside the game of Overwatch. We are basically just like a lab. We test and trial and error. Things get a bit crazy. Sometimes things blow up, especially when you introduce dynamite into the new kit. This week, we have myself, my name's Rob, and Andres, all the way from Atlanta. I'm patching in from Japan, and that's why we're recording at really odd hours on Friday night at like 9. It's kind of a strange thing, but we're sitting down this week with Fareeha and soon-to-be Ashe expert, Fareeha. Welcome to the stream.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me.
It's so great to have you. We were able to meet you at BlizzCon and had a quick exchange there with the
Heck yeah.
craziness that was the streamer meetup.
Oh man, yeah, that was a mess.
It
But it was
really
a good
was.
mess. It's a good mess.
Yeah, we got a really nice picture out of it at least.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
absolutely.
So basically this week, guys, we're talking all about Hero 29, Ashe, and of course b.o.b. And we are pumped to connect with Fareeha. And we're just going to start right away, just getting to know you. For those unengaged, we have a good stream popping today because you've been able to stream right up until the show and kind of host us. But for those in the back end listening to the recording, tell us a little bit about yourself, your streams, your content, everything.
Hey guys, my name's Fareeha. I play a lot of projectile and now hit scan DPS at a GM level, and I peaked at rank 1 Pharah for overbuff at least. And yeah. Hey guys.
Okay,
New
what kind of
Ashe
content
expert
do
too, because
Yeah.
you've been streaming a lot of Ashe, right?
Yeah, I've been spamming a lot of her just to try to learn everything and get just like try to figure out everything, all the nuances about her hero, because she's so interesting and her skill ceiling is insanely high. She's got like Anna's like playmaking and timing combined with like Widowmaker's just like kill potential, and it's just freaking insane. And I can't wait to dive into what it is.
We'll get into all that in just a second. What about
Right on.
how did you get into Overwatch and a little bit of your background as a gamer before you got into the game?
Overwatch is actually my first FPS. I
Oh,
started
very
in
cool.
silver, but just have grinded my way through the seasons. And yeah, at first my mechanics were absolute trash. So I had to make it through the ranks on like things like game sense and shot calling entirely, and that lends really really well to like Sombra and Vara. So hopefully it does the same with that.
Very cool.
Okay, we're going to jump in through a quick series of announcements, and then we'll get right into the interview about the hero, because I know we're all
Awesome.
itching in chat to get through this. So quickly, we have a game night with our podcast at the end of every month on Friday nights, and it goes for a long time. So basically starts early afternoon and goes until the wee hours of the morning, depending on where you are at in the world. We do PC and PlayStation 4 and Xbox as well, and that will be November 30th in our Discord over at omniclab.com. You can just go to links and click the link for our Discord. We also have a special sponsor, Top Score Solutions. User Ben, aka I Need Peeling, is offering free business consultations for people in esports that want to be a part of that, or just do coaching, starting teams, developing app services, etc. You guys want to boost your subscriber base? Check out topscoresolutions.com or find them on Twitter at Topscore Esports. We also have our official partner, the Omnic Meta, also known as Switch on Twitch and Twitter. And Switch is basically the guy that gives you all those stats. He's got his new personal stat page that you can monitor. You can just go and check your own stats, and he kind of like does what Overbuff does, but kind of simplifies it into more of relevant things for you to be really narrowing your focus in. And last up, if you guys want to find our Humble Bundle link, if you guys want to subscribe to the new Humble Bundle monthly, you can go find that by typing !humble in the chat or in our Discord. That's going to do it for our announcements, but actually I have one more. It's a minor thing, but I was actually able to hit diamond for the first time after the show last week.
Woo!
So I was
Awesome!
really hyped
Woo!
about that. Yeah.
I know
thanks,
you've been
guys.
fighting
Well
hard
done,
for
man.
that one. It's not hard with your ping, but you finally made it, dude.
Yeah. Playing from Japan on NA servers is not very kind to the ping, but I've been
Oh
super
my god, that
excited
must
to
be
do
hard.
Yeah.
180 MS average, for those
Oh,
wondering. But yeah, I played mostly Ana and actually Hanzo. I was just dumpstering people with Hanzo this season for whatever reason. But you don't want to hear about me and talking about Diamond Plat chat. Let's talk about Ashe, okay? All right. So
all right, let's go.
I'm curious, like, everyone kind of loves to describe Ashe in their own way since she's really new, and doing a hero guide for a Going Deep episode about a brand new hero before they've hit ranked is something we don't normally do, but on a hero that's very gun mechanic oriented, I felt safe doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
what is Ashe like meaning to you in the meta? What are you thinking is going to kind of develop? I know this is very predictive, but what is stuff that you've been really toying around with on the outset before we get
Here's
into the abilities?
here's what I noticed. She gets dumpstered on by a Zen, but she gets helped a ton by Mercy. So I feel like that those two supports are going to see a lot more use, just because both of them enable Ashe to get one shot kills, and that is so important because her one shot you can literally quick scope that as fast as like Ana, almost as fast as Ana can, and that power is insane. And then you couple that with her ability to throw in like a TNT when enemies are knocked down. That's pretty much guaranteed. Like healers are gonna have such a hard time healing through that. So it's gonna
Mm,
bring back that. It's gonna bring back res is also gonna be really important because pick potential is also a thing. Widowmaker
mm,
versus Ashe duels are also important because Widowmaker can try to line of sight her from really far away, and then that allows Ashe's fall off to finally kick in, and then you actually have the advantage as Widowmaker. But then what else? What else? She's just like a better McCree. I don't know why anyone would play McCree out on Ashe at this point. I mean, he has a stun, right? And they're bringing up Van the Hammer, so that's gonna be good against
he's going to be
high
much
mobility
better at
heroes.
those short range duels than Ashe. I think that's the
Yeah,
main differential
absolutely.
that they're trying
That's
to
the main
push
thing.
now.
I agree. I agree completely.
I've been saying
And
for a minute now that Ash is right in between McCree and Widowmaker. In playstyle wise, she feels like right in between
sort
those
of.
two. Like a little bit more long range McCree. And then you have a huge ability with her with the dynamite, right? The
Yeah.
the AoE
And
ability is like a weakness that Widow and McCree had for a while. You can't do damage to a lot of targets at the same time, but she has
agreed,
that.
agreed, agreed. And just a ton of burst potential. That's another thing. So I feel like she's like between Wodo and McCree, but then she's also this like Ana and Farah hybrid, which is why I've been liking her so much. We can get into that why that is a little bit later, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about like the core. So let's talk all the way back end. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
talking with some people in your chat. You got like Bronze Teacher Day, right? You're trying to teach
Yeah,
people
yeah.
how to learn the hero for the very first time. And what would you say to people like that? Like what's kind of your core? Like this is what I should recommend you to do. Make sure you use all your abilities, type of things, or how you want to shoot your aim. How do you want to use your ultimate? Just very much basic.
Okay. So okay, let's start with just basic cooldown usage. You want to be using that dynamite as much as you can. And we can talk about how to use that really effectively later on, but you want to be almost spamming it off of cooldown as the fight breaks down and the fight continues, because that is such a big amount of damage that you always want to be pushing out because it's putting pressure on the enemy healers. It's putting pressure on whatever flankers that you might use it on, and any bit of pressure or just like stuff that you can drop from the enemy is an advantage to you, because that means that say you force out their Ana's nade early, that means your Reinhardt's not going to take it, right? And just little things like that. And what else? What else? You want to play at
Let's
a
talk
mid
about the
range?
need.
Oh, sorry.
Let's talk about the dynamite for a little bit because I think that you're
Yeah,
right. It's a,
sure.
like a super main part of her kit.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed
Mm-hmm.
that using the dynamite, you can also build your ultimate like in really
Oh yeah,
fast. Just with shots, it
definitely,
takes a relatively long time if you're just shooting. But the dynamite,
for sure.
especially if you can get it on several targets, which is another thing to mention. The more targets that you hit it on, the damage is additive, right? So if you hit 3 targets, that's your damage times three, and it gets out of hand fast.
Yeah, I totally agree. So it's all about hitting that well, and it's using your own movement and where you place that dynamite to make it easier to hit, because we can get into that more. There's like a lot of detail about that. And and yeah, absolutely. Just like finding good angles to hit.
All right, so what about the gun? This is the big point of contention for new players, right? Like the ones that are just
Mhm.
like, "Oh my gosh, I could just click and spam so fast," or get in the scope. I want to shoot them all the time. I never want to move. Well, you have the movement speed reduction like Widowmaker,
Mhm.
and then you
Mhm.
also have the high speed with the spread. That's kind of like counterintuitive in some ways,
Yep.
especially since you want to have like a crosshair that doesn't show spread. It really helps with your
Yeah,
aim. Okay, you want to talk
absolutely.
about that?
Okay, so anyone who plays Ashe will immediately notice the shitty reload. It's so incredibly slow. You go into the reload, it's 2018. You come out of it, it's 2020, and it's incredibly slow. So you have to keep in mind, that being the case, it kind of is already an indication as to how you should use the gun. It means that each bullet has to serve its purpose, and spamming it out at hipfire to try to destroy shields, even scoping in and trying to destroy shields, you'll really quickly notice that her overall damage output really sucks compared to McCree or Soldier or any of the other hitscan heroes, right? So that's not her purpose. Her purpose is to have a lower overall damage output than a McCree or a Soldier would, but bigger and better burst damage, and in a way that puts her in a less vulnerable spot than Widowmaker, and like in a sense that she has to use more utility to get there.
So you want to think of the gun more in a Widowmaker like style than a McCree, is what
Yes,
you're kind
and
of
her
getting at.
primary fire is almost like SMG. Like you should rarely resort to using it. It's more of like a very close range kind of thing. It takes 5 shots, 5 body shots to kill. Consider that, and
It's
it
very
takes like
minimal
ages to get those
damage.
5 bullets. Hmm. Exactly. And me and my chat were talking about this earlier. If you go straight up against a Roadhog, and he's coming for you, if you hit every single shot, hipfire on him, it does about 480 damage. If you hit all headshots, not missing a single shot, it'll barely kill him through his healing.
That's
It's like
crazy.
900 and something damage. Yeah, it's awful against shields and tanks
Wow.
at close
Now,
range.
when
Yeah.
I was initially playing on this, I sent a couple clips to our patrons kind of in the back end, but I noticed that
Hmm.
you could do a body or a headshot with the standard,
Yep.
and then quick scope immediately for a full headshot without being babysat by a Zen Orb or a Mercy damage boost.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like your core, I
Hmm.
guess, your engagement or duel. I mean, of course, you can do 2 headshots. You can do 2 of any hit, right? It's just like
Hmm.
you got to
Absolutely.
make sure one of them is a headshot somewhere along the way.
It can be a 2 tap. Yeah. And the
Yeah,
same goes with her
she.
dynamite. If you hit somebody with it, it's one more shot, and then
Okay.
Mm-hmm. She does seem like without Mercy or Sin, like you were saying earlier, she's a two-tap hero. You have to hit
hmm
at least one headshot and then usually finish it off with your primary fire, which is fast and easy. You can spam it a little more, or even a melee hit. Your dynamite is a good finisher, especially if they're running away from you or kind of turning the corner. But yeah, what you're saying, Rob, I feel like that's kind of what you want to be aiming for, getting that headshot and then just finishing off with anything that's at your disposal.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
hmm
All right. Let's get into more of just general purpose stuff. So now you can get into the more kind of intermediate to advanced tips if you want to. Just
hmm
break it down with anything you'd like. We'll probably want to do. Let's talk a little bit more about b.o.b, and then we can go into pretty much everything, right? So let's talk about making
Sure.
something
Okay.
happen, right?
So Bob, I think his DPS is something like 112 or like 120 or something like that. 100 damage a second, around that much, and it's the total over the entire course. It's over just over 1,000, and his function is very similar to the old Molten Core turret. Do you guys remember that? When
Yeah.
it would go up
Yeah.
to super high health and just really spammy heavy lock on damage, and for reference, 112 to 120 or so DPS is close to Farah, pretty much hitting every single direct rocket. That's
As a
that's a
squishy,
frame of
you don't
reference.
want to
So
be
it's
around Bob for too long.
yeah, you absolutely do not want to. You're gonna get melted. That's a 2 second time, less than 2 second time to kill. So he's very good when you throw him somewhere where the enemy can't break line of sight, or somewhere where they're gonna have trouble deciding whether they want to line of sight Bob or something else potentially more dangerous. So things like if you send it out during a visor at an angle where it forces them to have to deal with a crossfire, or during like a diva bomb, it's like pick the worst of 2 poisons, right? And then that's where it's most effective.
Absolutely. I have noticed one thing about Bob the more I
Hmm.
play with Ashe, and it's that Bob covers one of the biggest weaknesses that Widowmaker or McCree or characters like that have.
Hmm.
Mainly those two, though, which are incredible heroes at getting picks, at providing pressure, heroes that
Hmm.
demand attention, but they're absolutely terrible at contesting the point, especially if they're just by
Okay.
themselves. But Ash
Yes.
has Bob, and Bob is actually amazing at contesting the point
Hmm.
because not only he counts as a hero that can, trigger overtime. He can cap by himself. He can move the payload.
Mhm.
He's also a huge body, a tank-like body, which also is good. Like if people are throwing things at Bob, like nades and other things, like you kind of want that, right? Because he's not one of the main
Mhm.
heroes. So I don't know. I think he's really amazing in that sense, and really brings Ashe a whole other level that the other heroes don't provide.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's like a level 3 turret that you can throw out, and it commands so much attention from the enemy team. And yeah,
So
and so
there's some other cool stuff that we want to talk about with Bob, but we probably
mhm.
should get into the other stuff and how to get to him, right?
Oh,
Because
I
he's
have I
gonna
have all the
be
time. It's all good.
yeah. Well, of course, that's why you're
Yeah.
here. So let's talk through just overall hero playing. So what are your we got through some fundamentals, and now we're gonna talk a little bit more about positioning because when you're playing a
Mhm.
hero like Ashe that overlaps with McCree and the other hit scans like Soldier and Widowmaker, you have to really figure out what this new positioning is going to look like moving forward with a brand new hero. And this is something that is going to be a little bit easier for players right now to do
Mhm.
because we have a lot more frame of reference of comparison by virtue of like comparing Ashe to when you introduce a hero like Orisa and Ana, and like you have all of these and Doomfist and Sombra. Like these heroes are
Mhm.
completely
Yeah.
different styles of play, whereas Ashe has got a little
Absolutely.
bit more of a thing that we're used to.
She's like a hybrid of a lot of things that we already know. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, her general positioning should be similar to what you would do as Zarya, honestly. You want to stay with your team. Your cooldowns can help them a lot in like peeling for Ana especially. Like your coach gun is so good against a Doomfist. Never underestimate that. It's so good. And you're inherently as Ashe, you're weaker against Tracer and Genji in a 1v1. Not really Genji, just mostly Tracer. Tracer and like Sombra, you're weaker against them, and it's literally just a skill matchup to see if you can hit the shot or not. Almost like Widowmaker, right? So you're not a McCree in that sense, but you're way better providing frontline pressure. And you can also do your flanks if you're confident with your mechanics. And there's one thing I want to talk about later. Do remind me when we get to the really advanced stuff. You can set up some insane plays for your team if you can. Be in voice chat, be shot calling. You can give them a specific time, and you can make these insane plays. We can talk about that later.
You're talking about with the coach gun, or what in particular about her kit?
In the sense that you can use her dynamite almost like you can like a set nade. If you guys have seen ML7 stuff, when he like looks into the sky at a particular spot, he throws a nade and you
Oh,
can
right,
tell his
right,
teammate
right.
15 seconds later, we push them
Mm.
here and it's gonna land. That kind of stuff. You can combo it with Bob and you can get some crazy stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish I
I've
could show you
already
guys.
started seeing some trick shots with that stuff. Yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
man. Yeah, yeah. We'll definitely get into all that stuff. Let's talk about the coach gun for a little bit because I think
Mm-hmm.
the coach gun itself makes Ashe really unique in the sense that she can be very brawly, like you said, Zarya, or even McCree, where she can be in the middle of the enemy team behind your Reinhardt shield, putting pressure out from there. But then she can
Mm-hmm.
quickly reposition and gain the high ground, almost like a
Yes.
Widowmaker with her grapple. You get so much verticality of this, and I think that opens up to a lot of versatility with the hero, right? You can get so many tricky angles or creative angles. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I totally agree. It's like a better grapple, pretty much.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
Yeah,
is.
it's instant. It doesn't break on like a wall, and yeah, it's honestly, it feels so good to use because that's the part that ties into Fire a little bit for me because I'm so used to having vertical mobility, and then when I have that taken away from me when I'm playing McCree or something, and I have to take the stairs, I just feel like there's so much downtime
Hey,
that I'm
I'm an
not
old
doing
guy.
anything for
McCree,
my
take the
team, and I feel like,
stairs.
right, just like it's
I'll be right
so
with you
so
guys.
slow. Yeah, so it feels so much more snappy, and it feels like you can get so many better angles for your dynamite too, and you can get like trick shots with Bob, like shoot him over roofs or like slide him on roofs and get him around corners. Really cool stuff that you can pull off. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you can do it with the coach gun too, right? Because it's based off of where you cast it, not
hmm
where you are in the kind of just like general
exactly.
like vicinity.
It's completely like it disregards what you shoot it on. The knockback comes from the gun itself, so. You probably already noticed this, guys, but if you blast the air, you're still gonna get the same knockback as if you were to hit the ground.
Right. You can use it as a double jump. You can jump and then
Yeah,
use it in the
exactly.
air and jump again. But not only that, you can use it against things like Doomfist. You mentioned that Ashe is actually kind of good against Doomfist, and the coach gun is a big reason why Ashe is good. If you guys haven't tried it, if Doomfist tries to seismic slam you at any point, just coach gun him and see what happens. He ends up like seismic slamming in another continent. Like he flies so far, and you're good.
Bounces over to
Exactly.
Nubani, and you're on friggin' Volskaya.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
So with regards to using the coach gun, there's something that I kind of wanted to have you talk a little bit more about. Not just that we don't require the game doesn't require you to hit anything to get the knockback, but like maybe this will help you guys understand what happens with the coach gun. Is it's kind of like you basically are putting in a gigantic explosion on a sawed-off shotgun, and that's what the coach gun is. And so anything around that works like a concussive blast on Farah, which
Exactly.
is why we have Fareeha here, because she's so familiar with the concussive blast, okay? And it's honestly the closest thing that there is, and they just add some damage where the explosion happens, and they put it
Totally, yeah.
on next to where Ashe's position is. And so if anyone else that is an enemy gets hit by a pellet near that explosion, they will also receive the same knockback effect. Now, that being said, that means that the horizontal movement is about the same for Ashe as it is for anybody that gets shot by it. But there's also a slight modification in the vertical movement that probably is more important to really touch on here before we move on.
Okay, so you gain a lot more air vertically, but you traverse the same distance if you were to go at a 45-degree angle versus going straight like 0 degrees or like any other variant. You go the same distance pretty much, but there is a little thing. I wish it was a thing. I wish you could do it, but you cannot you can't coach gun your way downwards. So if I were to be falling out of the sky, I can't propel myself to fall faster if I were to shoot above me. Unfortunately, it
That'd be
only
nice.
shoots you back horizontally,
Okay.
at most, and it's extremely good for peeling, not just for Doomfist, but for even a Roadhog because the range is fairly big. So as long as you're within decent range, like 10 meters or so, you'll be able to reach him. And if you get that on him, even if he lands the hook, it's going to throw him off a ton. He's not going to be able to walk forward for that one shot. And we're going to be seeing a lot of hogs soon, so
Right.
it's going to be really good counterplay.
It's technically like a Lucio Boop too. So in any situation where Lucio Boop is good, the coach gun is good as well. And it does require some practice. Like you were saying, people who are used to the concussive blast from Farah are probably going to have an easier time adapting to the hero. But it's almost like whatever direction you want to go on, you have to aim it the complete opposite. So the more you get practice with it, the better you'll be, because the ability does bring a lot of utility to the kid, and you want to be able to kind of reposition yourself on demand, be able to be like, I want to jump, diagonally right, and be able to do that on demand fast enough to be able to get those trick shots, react fast to the enemy. And it's gonna take a little bit of practice, but once you get it, it feels really good.
All right, I want to go back to Dynamite because this ability is nuts, right? So
Oh yeah.
I want to just give you, okay, we don't normally do this where we talk about like raw numbers a whole lot because it is audio mostly. But guys, just
Okay,
listen to
yeah.
this, okay? So Dynamite does 30 to 75 explosion damage within a 5-meter drop off, okay, of the center of the dynamite. That radius looks a lot bigger than it actually is. And I wonder, I remember I was watching the second to last game you were playing today, Fareeha, where you're like,
Yeah.
how does that not hit? Because
Yeah.
this radius is large in at least in the graphical representation of it. And so
Oh
I
yeah.
wonder if there might be some things that they still need to tweak with this, but
I
again,
think
not
so too,
confirmed or
yeah.
denied. It just feels weird. But again, if you're at the center of this blast when you detonate it, that's 75 damage plus another 100 damage over the course of 5 seconds.
Wait, hang on. Is it 5-meter radius or is it 5-meter diameter? Because they're very different things.
This says
That would
5
mean
meter
a 10
radius
meter.
according to the wiki page. So if the wiki page is
Okay, that would
wrong,
mean a 10-meter
10-meter
diameter. So it's
diameter.
10 meters across. It's like a 1.5 tracer blinks wide. That's
It
insane.
does seem pretty big.
That seems a bit
seems
big,
huge.
yeah.
It's like a little
Yeah,
smaller
a
than
little bit.
Grav.
Yeah, it's bigger than Grav.
It's bigger than Grav.
And to give you guys an idea of the damage potential of the ability, you mentioned the numbers here, Rob, but if you were to theoretically hit this grenade or this dynamite into the all 6 heroes of the enemy team, it has a potential to do over 1,000 damage, 1,050 to
Yes.
be exact. So that right there is a diva bomb in terms of damage.
But
And
again,
Like
it does
insane
it,
have that
cooldown.
ticking over time, so it does have a
Yes.
little bit of
right,
counterplay
it
with it,
won't
which is
like burst
nice.
you out, but like I don't
Mhm.
think there's a lot of heroes that have the potential to just do 1,000 damage out
It's
of
like the
like a
ability
10
to,
second cooldown ability.
yeah, yeah, and it's the ability to put pressure on their healers too, because that fire damage is not cleansable with any kind of healing other than health packs. No form of healing, even if it's an ultimate, like even Zen Trance, it won't take away the fire damage. It'll heal it fast, but it's still going on, so you're still getting that alt charge. And
Right, it's like negative healing when trance is coming is like just
exactly,
less output potential.
exactly, yeah, yeah, and it's insane because you hit that cooldown right on the person. It's 175 damage.
Okay, I'm
Crazy.
going to go retroactively on this, you guys. It says area of effect 5 meters. It doesn't say radius or diameter, so just to be
Okay, okay,
sure.
Oh, okay, okay.
okay. That's probably
We're just
diameter.
gonna
I
make
hope.
sure. We're just gonna make sure that I don't get a bunch of hate mail like 10 months down the road. You guys were wrong on episode 126. Because that
Yeah.
happens. It happens.
Yeah, Zari bubbles will wipe it, and so will health packs, but no kind of healing will cleanse it. That's what I'm saying.
And because
Now
it's in
there's
a 10-second cooldown, what you said, spamming it becomes super, super useful. Like you're probably not gonna get many 6-person dynamite hits, but you on average you can get 2 or 3 people pretty consistently, I feel, when you throw them out.
Yeah, maybe if they're playing Deathball at least,
Yeah, if they're grouped
for
up,
sure.
yeah.
Hmm.
Or chokes or any place where they have to kind of like cluster up for any reason,
Yeah,
it works pretty
totally
well.
agree. And it super punishes those teams without shields
Hmm.
because they're just gonna get farmed with that ability.
Well, even with shields, I think that after you've gained a little bit of practice, like lobbing it almost like a McCree
Yeah,
grenade
agreed.
over the Reinhardt shield, then you can detonate it right on top of them. So even the shields
That too.
are just like
It
a
makes it hard.
pseudo.
It just makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah, it just makes you have to practice a little more with Ashe.
Agreed, agreed.
So something interesting that I was thinking about this with regards to dynamite. This is kind of like maybe a little bit more of high strategy thoughts, but
Hmm.
when you used the grenade and you're hitting 2, 3, 4 targets or more, and we're thinking that the meta is going to involve something like Mercy Zen, right? These are very much single target healing
Hmm.
things that are going on, and generally, if you're going to run one or two of, let's see, one if not both of these heroes, it's going to be limiting to group healing.
Hmm.
And so the pressure on the healers that we're really discussing here is the constant babysitting they have to do, because it's not just like you can heal them and then they're good, because it just keeps going for 5
Yeah,
seconds.
exactly,
It's 20
exactly.
damage a second is giving you the idea out, not regarding armor. So again, Brigitte still seems like a crazy hero, right? Because it does negate
Hmm.
the ticking damage of this through the armor. So it cuts it in half to effective 50 damage over 5 seconds instead of that if it's
Yeah,
through armor.
I
So
hadn't thought about that, but the damage over time does make it like really awkward for Zens and Mercies that are relying on then stopping taking damage so they can, self heal. Because other than that, you're just relying on the other healer having your
yeah,
back, and
Mercy's
this
self heal doesn't trigger because she's just burning.
right or Zen's shield won't trigger any either way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it takes away the passive regen they have.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
so you guys are right. Like I'm thinking maybe it will have one of those like Ashe enabling healers, either Mercy or Zen, and then depending on which one is chosen, we would have more of like an AoE healer, like maybe Ana with her nades, but then you would have to consider things like Lucio and Brig would be really really strong. Moira too, because they just have better group healing, right?
Right. You just basically want a Mercy or a Zen, and then you want
Mm-hmm.
something for the group coverage. That's kind of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
idea
pretty
that we're
much,
looking at, which is
pretty
interesting
much.
because as before we were
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to think of somebody who has a crap ton of healing. We didn't really think of it in realms of group versus single target. But
Mm-hmm.
now, the more we're getting more heroes, the more the kind of Overwatch has developed over the last 2 years. The way we're looking at how we're going to support our roster is what damage and tanks do we have, and then how can we inform our decisions based off of that? Do we need a bunch of group healing? Do we need like single target
Yeah,
support?
yeah.
It's really interesting how they kind of developed this over the course of the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk more with your Bob usage and kind of like your typical setup. You said to mention this as setting up plays, shot calling with Ashe. Like what's kind of more of your advanced tips here?
Okay, more stuff with Bob. Okay, can I talk a little bit more about Dynamite because then that
Oh
leads
Yeah,
into
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
more
Of
of
course.
Bob stuff.
as much as you
Yeah, there was
like.
a lot of stuff I wanted to mention. Yeah, yeah. So like we've said before, Dynamite. I don't know if I said this actually. It's really really easy to shoot if you don't AD spam. It's just dead on. You throw it out and then you just aim up or down depending, and then you're able to shoot it pretty consistently. Hip fire is pretty good for it. If you want to be really really sure that you hit it, then you scope in. But if it's like your first bullet, it's gonna hit, right? It's not gonna have that spread on it. But but you want to if you're not gonna do the 80 spamming and you're gonna just like spam like forward back or not gonna move at all, you have to be with your team, and that's where that comes into play because you don't want your head like taken right off as you try to do that. But also, high ground does help with that, hitting it over range shields. You definitely want to hit it over your enemies. You want to throw it up, especially the closer your enemy is to you that you want to hit that dynamite on. The more upwards you want to throw it. You never want to throw it directly at them because dynamite has this weird thing where it bounces, and depending on the hero model or who you're fighting, it bounces in really really odd ways. If you throw it on Hammond, it rolls under him, and then you can't shoot it because he's massive. If you hit it on Zen, it can bounce like
The
either way
thick
depending on
hamster.
like which part of it he hits, so it could bounce like above. It's like a football bouncing. It's impossible to
That
predict.
has happened to
And
me. It
so
feels bad when it happens. You're like, no,
yeah,
my.
it feels really bad.
Or sometimes they might even like go in front of it. So when you shoot
Yeah,
it, you
that's
shoot
exactly
them
the thing.
instead. Yeah.
Yep, and it feels really bad when that happens. So you want to throw it up, and because the area effect is so forgiving, you if you are able to hit it immediately and time that right, you're able to hit them. It's less likely to damage you too because consider this: the way it works, it's like a sphere, right? If you hit it while it's on the ground, it has the biggest chance of hitting you. Whereas if it's higher up, the part that like reaches downwards, it's smaller too,
The
so you're
furthest
not going to
away.
damage
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah, exactly. There's more
And you can feel
control there.
awesome by hitting a fair out of the sky with not having to really hit her tiny model. You're just like, I'm just gonna throw this giant explosion. Hopefully, I hit it.
Heck
it
yeah,
it's
exactly.
also a generally good habit to have just to kind of throw it above the head and shoot it in the sky because of all the reasons you already said. Plus, there's other threats, right? Like Genji's deflecting or even Diva Matrixes,
Exactly.
right? That are kind of like live in that range.
Way
Throwing
easier
it
to avoid
above,
that way.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can dodge those things and kind of like play around them. And it's a lot easier to hit. Once it's in the ground, there's a lot of variables that can happen. You know, people stepping in front of it bouncing off
Yeah,
of
yeah.
things. In the air, it floats. It's almost floaty, right? We haven't mentioned that, but the dynamite itself, when you throw it, is a very floaty object. This is almost like
It's
in slow motion projectile.
a little bit, yeah. It's like slower than Anna's nade and also a little heavier. So if you try to like throw an Anna nade up at a wall, it's not gonna fall very much. Dynamite will fall a lot over long range. It has like a very steep drop off. It's like that, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
nosedives down
Yeah.
eventually. But there's a very very cool thing about dynamite, and this is where a lot of the like super super high skill comes into play, and why she's her. Well, I think her skill ceiling could be one of the highest of just any hero in the game. Is that her dynamite doesn't start to tick down on its fuse until it touches the floor or any kind of surface where it actually
That's
starts to
right.
sit. So, taking that into account, you can hit some insane bounces or throw it up into the air and lob it above where the enemies are even going to be looking. And usually that takes 10 seconds when you go for those skybox throws. And
Yep.
if you're able to land them and you time your bob, this is where it all ties together. And you time your bob to go in maybe over a roof or on a corner or whatever, to go and pressure them at the same time. You can force them into the like a back alleyway or around the corner, and then as they're turning the corner, your dynamite's already there and it's gonna explode. And it's all in the timing. I wish I could jump into game and show you guys.
Yeah, it's
It's
really
just
cool
like
because
yeah.
not only does it not detonate, but you even have a little bit more wiggle room because once it's down on the ground, you have, I believe it's 2.2 seconds. Yeah, 2.25 seconds before the thing will detonate on its own. And then
Yeah.
if Bob goes in and they happen to be around it, they know it's there and they're trying to get out. Not only will Bob kind of stop them or make them force into a decision to choose whether or not they're going to stick around or their escape route's going to have to change,
hmm
but if he does hit somebody, it's going to knock everyone up in the air and give you an opportunity to detonate early.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
Dynamite
really cool.
is such a versatile ability because you can do trick shots like that. You can use it to just generally put pressure on the enemy team. If they group up, it's a huge deterrent for that, right? Like, don't group up where
hmm
you're gonna get dynamited. But
yeah.
not only that, the dynamite serves a bunch of purposes as a dueler or just in general to get picks in situations that other hit scans would not be able to get picks. One of my
Oh
favorite
yeah.
uses of the dynamite is that you can use it to corner check with it. You can just throw it down a hall or around a corner, and as soon as it goes around the corner, you shoot it, and whoever is hiding there, dodging your bullets, will get hit. And one, you'll know that they're there, or two, if you're having one of those kind of standoffs with another Widowmaker or something, one of the easiest ways to dodge a hit scan is just to kind of like move around the corner, AD spam around it. And with
Yeah, yeah.
Ashe, it's just that doesn't work. You don't want to be around the corner like that because she can still get you.
Mm, exactly, agreed. And it feels so cool to be able to have that around the corner damage. It's very much so like Junkrat's concussion mine,
Right.
but like twice as strong, almost twice as strong. It's
Very, very
crazy.
strong. Or you can use it to finish off low level or low health targets
Yeah,
in the
that
middle
are
of
out of the
a
line of sight.
skirmish. Yeah. Or several times I've used it, for example, there's a guy with like one health and he's running in between their tanks. Kind of hard to hit. Shields are coming above him and stuff. And you just throw the dynamite and it's a guaranteed hit, right? Because you're not having
Oh yeah,
to
yeah.
account for his AD spamming or anything. You just throw it near him and you can just shoot
Mhm.
a very predictable projectile. So it's almost like an easy shot, right? That you can take in that point.
Totally agreed. Yeah, and there are some crazy hero synergies that you can play. You can use with that too, because think of Hammond's seismic slam, not pile driver, or
Right.
think of Uris's pull. When they pull them up into the air, you can just throw the dynamite on the floor. It's fast enough that you can shoot it, and then they're forced to fall back down because their horizontal movement is
Hmm.
their vertical movement is locked, right? They're forced to fall back down, and so you can figure out synergies like that to help your team break into their team, and there's so much cool stuff you could do.
Absolutely. I just imagine that a dynamite and then a nanonade, you might kill just the whole enemy team in like one Orisa pull like that.
Maybe that would suck to be on the other end of.
Nade, dynamite, Bob, pull, hook, all the CC,
Oh no.
shatter, do it all. There's not enough hero combos, man. There's just so many.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about Coach Gun. Let's go back to this because I've
Yeah.
been seeing some really cool stuff with people using Coach Gun for finishing targets off, for
Hmm.
setting up things where you're like, I know this guy's tailing me. I'm waiting for my Coach Gun to come off cooldown, and I'm gonna pop him back and headshot them. You have that combo.
Hmm.
So talk a little bit more about kind of like just the situations you find yourself in, and not just using it for movement, right?
Okay, so while movement is a big part of Coach Gun, it's you're totally right. It's got its other usage too. Remember, guys, in the hero reveal short, remember that Genji who tried blading, and Ashe was just like, well, "Nope, you're gonna eat a face full of bullets." And that kind of stuff is gonna be so good because not only can you peel for your teammates, it also locks your target in a specific like linear path of movement.
It's kind of
So
like
that
the
means easier shots
Doomfist
for you,
uppercut.
pretty much kind of like that, and it locks them in a certain movement, makes it easier for you to even just land a body shot on them. That could be enough, or it could be enough to knock them off the map. There's a lot of things that you can do in terms of that, right? Legion Gardens is going to be a fun Ash map. And just a lot of stuff, right? And yeah, it's like it's definitely one of those cooldowns that you almost want to treat um like flashbang. When you're not using it for movement, just the fact that you have Coach Gun is such a big deterrent for flankers like Genji or Doomfist. Those two especially, because you're so reliant on like melee range attacks, right? And just having it is enough of a threat to make them go like, do I really want to engage them right now? Just I need to wait it out. And so yeah, that's another key part of it.
One thing that the chat was mentioning was that at close range is very hard to fight as Ashe. And at very close range, she's unlike McCree. She doesn't have the flashbang, fan the hammer, I'm gonna burst it down real quick, right in her face. She doesn't have that ability. The dynamite is actually a big liability at such close range unless you get really practice at like shooting above you, moving away.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, you don't want to just shoot it at your feet and burn
Oh
yourself
yeah,
too.
no.
So at close range, she is a little bit weaker, but the coach gun is a great tool to solve that problem. not
Exactly.
only does it space you out and gives you distance, but like you said, it gives you a very predictable linear movement on the enemy, and that's your
Hmm.
chance right there. That's your out. You get the space,
Exactly.
they move out predictably. That's when you have to capitalize, and some mechanical skill will come into play there, right? You have to practice with the Viper. It's the main part of her kit. So you do have to get the shots with her, but
Totally.
her toolkit is amazing for her gun. It just revolves so well around it.
I completely agree. And crap, I don't know where I was going with that. Let's move on to the other thing. It's okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
Do you have
So
any
let's talk
tips
about
about her gun in general? Just maybe
yeah.
practicing your aim or improving with it because
Okay.
it does take some time with it.
Yeah, it does take a little bit of time. I was talking to my chat earlier about this too, and we were trying to figure out how does her scope translate. How does her scope sense translate into like Widow and Anna's scope sense? Because the FOV, like how much it zooms in, is completely different from those two. And so we were talking about like the perfect one-to-one ratio with scope sense, where on Widow or Anna it would be like 37.8 or something like 38. On Ashe, that would be something like 51, I think.
So I
51.5 or
have
something.
I'll let you know here that if you go to our Discord, there is
Hmm.
a lot of work I was doing with a guy named Real Pete TV, and
Yeah.
we found some things on the official competitive Overwatch subreddit for this specific thing. There is a calculator, and I'm
Oh,
looking it up
awesome.
right now that you can do. You just punch in here. I'm gonna grab this link here.
Yeah, we can maybe post it
Sensitivity
in chat for
calculator.
everyone here.
I'll
That is
post it
so
in chat
cool.
right
Yeah.
now.
Let's do it.
If you go to this place, it's called desmos.com/calculator, and then there's a couple other things at the end. I'm not sure if it'll get you there, but basically you set your Anna or your Widowmaker scope sense to the top, and then you set the bottom bar to 66, and it'll just shoot out whatever you
Damn.
want. And that's what I ended up doing.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I think I use 40 or 44 for Anna, and it's like it's like 50, 55, 52, somewhere around that range.
Okay.
And just to kind of clarify, because I feel like this is a little bit advanced for people who don't play the game too much or anything. But if you go into the options for Ashe, there's an option to increase or decrease your zoomed sensitivity, which is slightly different than your regular mouse sensitivity. She's slightly different than Widow and Anna, for example, because her zoom sensitivities or their point of views once you zoom in are so far into the target. Yours is kind of like midway or like very short to midway. So your sensitivity to point of view ratio is just a little bit different. And if you're
It
trying
has
to
to do with what the
maximize,
scope is. It's
right,
2.0 versus 1.5.
right, and if you're trying to maximize your consistency with the hero, you want to have a similar sensitivity when you're scoped as when you're unscoped, right? So you're not guessing or your mind is not trying to constantly
Sorry,
adjust
trying to
for
play
that
with different
difference.
sense. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, Fareeha, sorry to cut you off there. I just wanted to make sure that that there's a resource out there to help you
Oh,
kind
no
of go one to
worries.
one.
Yeah, this is really good. It's actually really really close to what I had set. I was only like point 0.5 off. That's awesome.
Oh,
Nice,
Thank
nice.
you for
You
sharing
nice.
this
had you
tool.
had
This
honed
is
in already.
super cool. Yeah, close.
So close.
So close.
And you don't need
Okay.
like a calculator or anything. You can do it by feel, but the calculator might help you get there a little quicker.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about map dependencies. This is something that we've been seeing a lot more recently with other heroes. We're just like, well, this hero is really good, or like Orisa's really good
Hmm.
here, Reinhardt's really good here, Dive's really good here, etc. So let's talk a little bit about that with Ashe.
I think she's gonna be strong where she can always obtain high ground. There's certain King of the Hill maps that she might be a bit weaker on because she has to constantly look up, but there are always bits of high ground to circumvent
Mm.
that too. But it also places her away from her team and makes her susceptible to getting dove. So there's also that to keep in mind. But maps where there are a lot of corners, long line of sights, just like Widowmaker, they're all good. And most maps have areas that fall into that category. And because she is a hero that tends to stay with her team, she's not too map dependent. Imo.
Okay.
I was gonna
She
say
can
the
pretty
same
much win.
thing. Like I kept trying to think like where would she be bad?
Where would
And
she be
on it
bad? Exactly.
and
Yeah.
honestly, there's not a lot of places where you wouldn't like you would say like no Ash. Like Farah, for example, there's some maps where you definitely just don't want to run a Farah. Just there's no space to fly, right? And you want to be a free
Yep.
bird up in the sky. But with Ash, you don't have that problem because you can brawl up in the front line. You have mobility, so if you get tired of that, you can just go get high ground real fast. One of the
Exactly. Yeah.
right, one of the main weaknesses of the other heroes like McCree and Widow, sometimes they don't thrive in King of the Hill because of their lack of mobility, right? When you go
Oh yeah.
into
Yeah.
these maps and you have dive compositions running circles around you, it's kind of like, oh man. But Ash, again, doesn't have as much of that problem because she does have some sort of mobility. She can contest the point by herself if needed, with the help of
Hmm.
Bob. So I don't know. She just seems very versatile for a hero in her category. And we haven't had this before and makes me really excited because I don't know, it's a very
Me
high
too. Me
skills
too.
ceiling hero that you can use almost in every map, fits in many different compositions. You can play her in so many different play styles. I don't know, you want to speak a little bit to that?
I think somebody in chat is saying like narrow chokes with limited angles. That's totally true. That's true with Widowmaker too, but especially with Ashe because she doesn't have the one shot ability that Widow does, right? So it's if you hit the headshot, they had the chance to just retreat and kind of hide, and it's not always possible to get that dynamite off depending on where their tanks are positioned, maybe where your team is, maybe you can't get in the position where you need to be able to hit that, and there's something to take into account. She, like you said, she is really, really versatile because all the other DPS heroes, they're so weak at contesting the point, other than Doomfist because you can just like kill shit really quickly.
Yeah.
But
Or like
um,
Tracer, you can pseudo contest sometimes,
kinda, but
just because of
it's all
your
about
cooldowns, right?
yeah, exactly. But she has a big thing that can just like go onto the point, cause a lot of ruckus, cause a lot of damage, maybe get a kill too, especially if you're able to knock somebody up in the air, right? That's an easy target to finish off. Again, because um, targets that are locked in like vertical movement, whether that's by grapple hook, whether that's like jump jet, they're always very easy to kill, right? So very easy shot to line up. And so I feel like she can be viable anywhere, especially on like when the objective is involved. When you have
You're
Bob, at
right.
least.
Because you don't have to be present, right? If you have your ultimate, you can
Exactly.
just chuck it in there and then go dive them.
And it takes away a lot of the rush and panic that comes with having to get that overtime contest. Because a lot of
Right.
teams, especially you'll see this in solo queue, when you miss that last chance to group at like 75 or 80,
Mm-hmm.
you really have to force like somebody to go on there and touch so that the rest of the
Mm.
team can make it back, and that kind of takes away that panic, which is really good.
And it's usually a sacrifice, right? Like the person who
Yeah.
makes it to the thing, it's like sacrifice themselves. Like, guys, I'm gonna give my life so that we can
Yeah, pretty
contest a
much.
little longer. But like
Pretty
Bob is
much.
great. Is great for that because you can send Bob into the middle of things. You don't care that much, right? Like he's doing his
Yeah.
job as long as he's soaking damage and cooldowns and everything's getting thrown at him. That's kind of what you want. Not to count that your healer can actually heal him.
And nano him.
Yeah, and nano him, do all this stuff, and several times it
Don't
happened.
encourage them, Fareeha. Don't
When I,
encourage them.
but several times it happened that I was like, throwing Bob to trigger overtime or contest the point last minute, and by the time my healer got back, they would just pump heals into Bob, um, allowing him to stay there for the entire duration of the ult. And by that time, my entire team was back, and the enemy team had depleted a bunch of cooldowns on Bob, so my team could just like come in like, all right, here we go, guys.
Let's go get him. Let's go get this bread. But yeah, like you're totally right, and it's like he gets trans healed too. He gets beat drop from Lucio. He gets passive healing from any of the healers. So he's treated like a hero in like another like a seventh hero in every sense, and he's only really killable when the enemy has the space to be able to focus him. So this is why like timing is so important with him. But consider like an ulting monkey. He has about the same HP and similar hitbox size, a bit bigger, right, on monkey. But consider that monkey's like hacked and he's like trapped in a junkrat trap. That's how easy it is to focus him down, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to, but it's considering his damage, his sheer damage output, they have to have that space. They have to have that shield or a diva like taking the damage for them to be
Mm.
able to dump all that resource like into them.
I am very glad you brought that up because timing is everything with Bob. The ultimate
Mm-hmm.
doesn't actually last for very long. It's what, it's like 10 seconds or 8 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's not
I think it's
forever
10.
that you have it there. Yeah, it might be 10. All her cooldowns seem to revolve around 10, so I want to say 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but if you throw it at the wrong time and Bob goes in first, it's very easy for the enemy team to just and I see your sad face over there. Yeah, it's very easy to just focus on Bob. Like the enemy Reinhardt can charge him, Roadhog can hook him, and basically immobilize him until he's dead. And if
Pretty
the whole
much.
enemy team is shooting at him, he actually dies fairly quick. But like you said,
Mm-hmm.
if you throw it right at the break of the fight, right as your team is engaging, and he's just like a huge body that they have to deal with as they're dealing with your team, there's just not enough damage to take him
Mm-hmm.
down quickly or
Oh yeah.
efficiently. And if they do, then they're giving your team a button of space that it's already worth it at that point.
Absolutely. And there's things like there's certain matchups that are just so bad for like the enemy. Like if it's like a strict Ryan v Ryan, like Ryan
Mm.
Zarya matchup, and you have Bob. If you send Bob straight at them and it hits their Reinhardt, no matter if he has shield up or not, he's gonna get knocked in the air.
And you get the
So your
shatter.
Ryan has free shatters every single time you have Bob. And so that's like yeah, I don't know how Zarya bubble interacts with it. I think it prevents the knock-up. I'm not too sure. I think it prevents either the damage
Although
only
I
and then it
feel
Oh
like
messes it
I've
up,
man,
knocked
or
up
I forgot to
Sarias with
put that in the
bubble
show notes. I
on.
was gonna look that up
yeah, we
before the
haven't
show.
tested it yet.
Like, yeah, we might have to
Yeah.
do a little bit of testing here because I feel like I've
Mm,
knocked Sarias up with bubble, but it might have been that I hit him and then they bubbled like right after
yeah,
they
it
got
could have
hit,
been.
right? So it's
Right.
kind of hard
Yeah,
to
I
tell.
agree.
Now, there's some cool interactions I want to highlight real quick. The thanks to our friends over at Overwatch Central that did a crap ton of PTR testing
Oh
on this.
yeah.
And they showed that there's a very, very, very tiny and inconsistent window in which you can get interrupted for using the ultimate. But largely, the broad brush stroke here is
Yes.
that if you use Bob, you cannot get interrupted. If you can kind of make that assumption, there is a very, very tiny inconsistent window that you can, but it's like it's even sometimes hero dependent, and like sometimes I have to like do it like almost the second you hit the button, you're getting interrupted. It's like super small window, but generally
It
speaking, you're gonna
happened to
get it
me.
off.
It happened to me once, and I was so confused because I said like Bob, and like as she was before she said do something, I got stunned by like a Brigitte or something like that, and then
Mm.
Bob never came
No.
out, and I was like, "Where's my Bob? He never came out."
Where is my butler? They need a voice line
he
like that.
didn't. He
That
didn't
would
do
be
anything.
perfect.
Bob didn't do something.
He got
Yeah.
stunned to oblivion, just like the
Yep.
rest of
And
us.
then there's another thing that's really interesting that they were talking about that I'm sure Fareeha you've been testing this
Mm-hmm.
extensively.
Yeah.
But there's a set distance that he runs, and
Yep.
it's not distance based.
It's
It's
time
based off
based.
of time.
Yes.
So if you speed boost him, if you try to do a CC to like move him while he's running, he's still going to run for the same amount of time until he hits someone or something that can stop him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Totally.
keeping that in mind, there's also a really brief window where he like spends like a split second deploying his gun that you can kind of like get out of the way, not just when he's running. And then on
Mm-hmm.
top of that, if he does hit a wall or hit something, you can deploy his guns earlier by just
Yeah.
saying, I'm not going to go for the CC. I'm just going to throw him into this corner and we're going to sit him and do protect the president for 10 seconds, like we just randomly called in a bastion or,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of a thing. So there's so many different scenarios that people are going to be developing over the coming months that we don't
Mm-hmm.
even know are good use cases yet because of how versatile this
Absolutely.
ultimate is.
For sure. And I've been doing a bunch of testing, just going into custom games and getting ultras really fast. Bob is a very, very weird ultimate
Mm,
in just terms of casting too, because he comes out at like the top right quadrant of your screen. So if you were to divide your screen like this, like horizontally and
mm-hmm,
vertically, and get into four, it would be the top right. And um, and so knowing this, you can't look straight. You can't have your crosshair in the middle of a doorway. You have to have your crosshair at the bottom left corner of the doorway so that Bob will actually go through the door and not get caught on the wall to the right of him.
Oh,
Because that's
interesting.
what usually happens. This is super, super weird. And like you said, it's based off of time, not quite distance. So it's actually possible to throw Bob onto a roof. And you know how most heroes, when they interact with the roof, they kind of get caught a little bit and then they start to slide off, depending on
Mm-hmm.
if it's like another roof, like
Like a
pushing
slant.
it in.
Right.
Yeah, like you can kind of slide it, or you get caught on it and it slowly like pushes you off.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do that with Bob and make his run shorter. That's also possible.
Because it's time based.
It'll still give the knockback if you like send it the right way. And they're also,
Oh.
if you throw it on a roof, depending on where you aim it on the roof, he will curve after the run. So he'll drop at the same place no matter where, but after dropping, he can go slightly more to the right or slightly more to the left. And on Hanamura B, I wish I could show you guys right now, but
This
there's a
is so
spot.
cool.
Yeah, there's a way you can curve him around. There's a way. Do you know the attack? Like, say you're attacking point B, right?
Right.
Okay.
There's the top. There's a top right engage like area, right up the
Yeah, well,
stairs.
if you
Yep,
go up the
yep.
stairs, yeah.
You
The high
can
ground.
you can jump onto the rocks behind as a defending Ashe. Coach gun yourself onto the roof, and you can throw Bob. And depending on where you throw him, you can curve him to have line of sight of the middle hallway, like the high ground hallway.
Okay.
That's like right above the entry gate of Hanamura Point
Mm-hmm.
B. You can make him go up the stairs, or you can curve him outwards towards the mega outside.
Oh, interesting.
Just
So
depending on where
from
you
that
aim
same
it.
spot, you
So,
can
like,
kind of like choose your engage location.
yeah, it's super cool.
I really think that
Oof.
like trick shot bobs are definitely gonna become a thing.
Trick Bob shots.
Yes, yes.
It's canon, boys. Let's do it.
Because the thing is, he's very weird to shoot, and it's funny that you mentioned all of those things because I was about to ask you if you had any tips for aiming
Mhm.
Bob. Because several
Oh, yeah.
times I've already shot my Bob off of the abyss, or I've shot him and he ends in like in a corner all by himself,
Yeah.
like looking at nothing,
It's
and I'm like,
super
no,
weird.
Bob, that's not what I meant for you to do.
Oh, there's a couple more interactions you should keep in mind. When you're this is particularly important when you're attacking, because attacking you have a lot of or even defending. Actually, no, scratch that. Just when you're peeking to the left, when there's a wall on your right side covering your right, and then you're peeking to the left, AD, mostly like A. You have to be very, very careful that the right side of your screen is uncovered by cover, otherwise uncovered by the wall. Otherwise, Bob is going to run into that wall. He's not going to go where you want him to go. So you can't just like barely peek out a little and throw him out. You can do it if you're peeking to the right, if your cover's on the left, but you can't do it the other way around because of the way he comes
Because
out.
of the way it comes called.
Interesting.
Right.
And there's also a weird interaction where he doesn't slide too much because any angle where he's thrown perpendicularly to a wall, where he's thrown at like a 90-degree angle to like it's almost like 40 to like 30 degrees even, he'll stop when he hits that wall. But if you throw it at like a more like a softer angle, he kind of like Diva Bomb. It's like along the wall and he turns the corner. It's
But he'll keep
super
running.
strange. He'll keep running.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
That's why.
Yeah, I'm
that's why he
excited
ends up in
because like this is the
weird
whole
spots.
Diva scenario,
Yeah,
right?
now
Like
I want to
Yeah.
go
Diva,
play with
you're
Bob
like,
now.
I didn't know they could do that until I watched Poco play. And you're like, okay, let's go. Who's the Ashe streamer we gotta watch? You know. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Something also that a few people I've gotten some questions on over the course of the last 2 weeks about Bob. When you are healing him or when he is dealing damage, there is no ultimate charge that is involved.
Oh,
So if you are
good
dealing
thing to mention.
damage to him or you are healing him, you are not gaining any ultimate charge. It is just identical to a Torbjorn turret at level 3. You're not getting any ultimate charge for killing it, but it is in your best interest to either avoid it or kill it safely, okay? But as a
Totally agree,
healer, this is something that we haven't had a chance to interact with yet because healers can't heal a level 3 turret. But if you look at Bob in that way, you can heal him, and it's beneficial to the team to keep him alive, et cetera, but it's
Right.
not going to give you any other benefit besides him existing.
And I think I like that they did it this way because then there's no fear of you like sending your Bob last minute and then him failing
And
like
then
or something like
feeding,
that.
like, 1,000
Yeah, and
ultra.
feeding or something like that. Like
That
Bob,
sucks.
stop feeding or something like that. You know,
Here's
your
a free
team's getting
Roadhog.
mad at you.
Oof.
So yeah, it's
And,
nice. No ultimate charge from it.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really, really good thing. Have you guys done testing? Like, does if Bob does damage to a target and then the enemy team's healers heal them, do they get damage? Do they get all charge from healing Bob's damage?
I'm pretty sure
Yes.
as
Did
long
you
as
see what I'm
you're
saying?
healing at
Yes,
a
because
hero
you're
that's not
healing your
Bob.
allies. It's based
Right.
off of that,
Yes.
not based off of his damage.
So that's gonna be a thing that you can do against a
You
Bob
can manipulate
is
it.
that if yeah, exactly, because he has over like he can give you essentially 1,000 HP of healing all charge, and that is huge. That is enough to build a lot of support ults, right?
So if they
For
botch
like a
an
big
ult,
chunk.
you can make them
Yep,
pay because you're just
you
saying, well,
can
we're gonna have Nano next fight because you screwed up.
exactly. You can have your like Rhine and other tank, Rhine
Just
D or
soak.
Rhine Zarya, just kind of soak it and like kind of control it a little bit, and then you can just heal it as you go.
That means you
Yeah.
can give Zarya's free charge too.
Yep, that too.
Another big reason to time your bomb at the right time, right? Because if not, the enemy team can kind of use it kind of how they want it, or just get rid of it very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Precisely, yeah.
We are running a little bit out of time, but is there anything else, any other advanced tips or any things that you learned about Ash that we haven't touched so far?
I'm thinking. Uh, her flanks and the like the things you can do with Coach Gun, they're pretty straightforward because it's just like a double jump. So whatever
Mm-hmm.
you can imagine would work with that. There's nothing too fancy you can do because it's not like Hanzo's like new jump ability where you can cross underneath like that King's Row flank third point
Oh my
All
because
gosh.
you don't
right.
have the wall climb.
I have
So
died
like
so many times trying
it's a
that.
hard one. It's like a
Don't
frame
try it
per
at
life
home,
check.
kids.
How to
And
throw the game.
yeah, exactly. And there's just like things like Sombra can shut down an Ashe pretty hard just
Yee,
based off of her hack being able to kill Bob completely for like 5 seconds or
basically.
EMP for 8 seconds, which is almost the entire duration. And you just have to be cognizant of that. And uh, timing is key. Timing is key because then when Sombra wants to engage you, then you put pressure on their team. She has to
Mm.
decide between the two, right? And
I
so
think Sombra's a good check for Ashe. I really enjoy the fact that
I
she's
think
in the
so.
game.
Yeah,
So
for sure, for sure. And I'm trying to think of other stuff though.
I
Huh.
guess one thing that we didn't
anything with the
mention
dynamite?
is
Because we
that
kind of covered that.
Hmm?
I was
Oh,
gonna
sorry. I'll
say
just go ahead.
against heroes like Roadhog, for example, if it's just you, you're gonna have a really hard time killing them because Ash is a very bursty hero, but it's kind of
Yep.
like fair. A lot of burst in like single shots, but the shots are very slow and spaced out in between them. So trying to kill targets like a Roadhog that can just heal himself and kind of run away just by yourself is gonna take you a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
You're better off just focusing squishies, 200 or less heroes.
Totally agreed.
It's something
She's
that I
worse
noticed with
off
her.
at facing tanks than Widowmaker is, and that's
Mm,
something you really have to consider. Because
Hmm.
Widowmaker's thing with tanks is even though she's genuinely weaker than them, she can two-shot most of them, right?
mm-hmm.
Ashe
Right.
cannot. Ashe has to like rely on like 4 or 5 shots, even if she gets the headshots. And so with her, it's like I don't know, like you almost never want to be going for a shield unless that's the only thing you can do at the moment. Because shields in like tankier tanks, like Hammond especially, Hammond is really
Hammond takes
rough for Ashe.
forever to kill.
Oh my
Yeah.
You like
word.
don't even bother. Like don't
Especially
even
if it's
bother.
in if it's in a ball and you can't shoot his
Yep.
head, it's like tickling him with your little
Hmm.
shots.
I'm gonna go take a
Totally.
nap and coach gun over here so I can peace out for a while. I'm done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
your best tool
Because you
against
consider
tanks is
like,
definitely your dynamite, but your gun
oh yeah.
not the best against them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you hit again every shot and you hit it super fast, that's only like 400 something damage. It's
Right,
not a
that can
lot.
get healed and between shields and line of sight. Like it's just
Yep.
you're not gonna kill them consistently. I think not without the help
Yeah.
of
Well,
your
guys,
team.
girls, I think it's about that time to close the show and say our goodbyes. But before we do, just remember this is not the end of strategy. There's always infinitesimally other streamers to go watch. We, of course, have
Heck
one of
yeah.
the best ones here. We have Fareeha if you're going to go watch
Aw.
Ashe specifically because she's going to be playing it a lot. You can watch her. You can also talk with us on our Discord, and I'm sure that she gets hundreds of thousands of questions, if not on a daily basis, on a weekly basis through her Discord and her stream. So please go check those things out. If you guys want to support our show, the best way to do that is we have 3 venues. The best way to do that for free is just listening to the show and leaving us a review on iTunes. We have 2 people that have left us some very kind iTunes reviews, and we have our first iTunes review from Estonia. So I was pretty excited
Ooh.
to hear from
Oh yeah,
OOAU. I can't
yeah.
pronounce your name, but thank you so much for leaving us an iTunes review. And also, I wish I could be the very best. Clearly, a Pokemon trainer in their core. So thank you guys so much for the kind words. We don't have time to read them off, but let me tell you, these were very kind, and I appreciate that. If you guys want to support us financially, we're part of the Twitch affiliate program, so you can sub and get a quick we get an affiliate benefit from that, just like a normal Twitch sub would. And also, you can find us on patreon.com/OmnicLab, like the special folks here that are at the highest level supporting us on the diamond level. We have Top Score Solutions, Anthony E., aka Silver Loki. We have Solo PS4, Mr. Mars, Jan Jinkle, Terry F., Durandal, Roger B., Britmus, Shazir, Christoplaya, Tragic Zach, and listen, we have no new patrons this week, but if you do decide to be a part of the scientist crew, you can do that, and we will give you a quick shout out on the show. And it helps us get to places like BlizzCon, especially for people like me who are going from one end of the globe to the other. It helps us dramatically. And yes, I do mean it dramatically. You guys can see anything that you're willing to ask us in questions. We're always available on our Discord at discord.me/OmnicLab. And if you're looking for any links, check out our website, omniclab.com. That's going to do it for the show. Fareeha, you have the floor. Pimp out your stuff. Tell us where you can find you, what your content is, where it is, and all that.
Awesome. Okay, thank you guys again so much for having me. I had a blast talking through all this with you guys. You can find me mostly on Twitch. I am live 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, throughout the week, and I'm live at like 11 a.m. EST. 11 a.m.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm saying that right. Yes, at twitch.tv/Fareeha. You can also find me. I do occasional content on YouTube. I definitely intend on making more educational content there, so you can definitely check that out for more guides and more like in-depth analysis and just like really advanced stuff if you guys are into that. And
Cool.
Also have a Twitter, which is more updates about the stream, about the community, about me, and yeah, that's it.
All of that info will be in the show notes, and you spell that Fareeha. If you have not checked it out yet and you are under a rock, then there you go. Andres, where can people find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And I just want to say again, thank you so much, Fareeha. You're such a pleasant person, and this conversation was super, super awesome. I'm glad we got to talk about Ashe because he's a hero that I've been playing a lot. So this was super cool. And also, I see you wearing that Atlanta Rain shirt. Represent. Loving it.
Andres, being a Georgia native, has to shout out the rain. And
I gotta do it.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram with the tag NotRob. If you want to find me, I'm pretty much always hanging out in the Discord when it's not convenient for me, just because of time zones. But we'll see you guys next week. Remember to don't be a lab rat, be a scientist, and we'll see you guys on the flip flop. Adios.
Thanks to everyone
Thanks
in the
everybody in
chat. Yeah, you guys were super awesome today. Thanks for all the new subs. I know we didn't have too much time to mention you guys, but thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate the support.
I just looked over to chat and saw Rip Andres at the very top. You guys are doing it right.
I think that's what I said. My Bob went to the corner all alone.
Walk in harmony, my student.
This outro is so long. Thanks, everybody. If you're on YouTube, thanks for listening. Bye.